The Earth contains a ball of metal that is extremely hot, and it is located deep below the surface of the world. It has been positioned at a location that is 100% subterranean. Researchers made a startling discovery not too long ago, which is that something dreadful is happening to it. This is a finding that caught everyone off guard. When exactly did the rotation of the core of the Earth within the context of the planet come to a complete halt? The following are some examples of catastrophic events that could be brought about as a result of this. Is it reasonable to anticipate that we might one day become as dead as Mars? Should we be prepared for this possibility? It would take you to travel through 4 distinct layers of the Earth's interior if you were to delve deep into the Earth's interior in order to reach the center of our world. If you wait until then, you will be able to successfully reach the center of our globe. First, there is the stony crust, and then, after that, there is the hot liquid mantle that comes following it. The mantle is the thick layer that lies beneath the crust. After traveling a distance of 2,900 kilometers, 1,800 miles, you will arrive to the outer core of the Earth, which is composed of liquid iron and nickel. This core is located at the center of the Earth. In conjunction with the inner core, which is composed of iron that has crystallized in its hole, the 2 core layers of our planet are roughly similar in size to those of Mars. In spite of this, in contrast to the planet with the red color, they generate an extremely high temperature. They have a temperature of 10,000 degrees Celsius, 18,032 degrees Fahrenheit, which is more than 1,000 degrees Celsius. This makes them hotter than the surface of the Sun when compared to the temperature of the Sun. In addition to that, there is a substantial quantity of activity that may be discovered in that location. It is the movement of molten metal in the outer core of the Earth that is responsible for the production of the magnetic field and its associated effects. The magnetic field appears as a result of this motion, which is responsible for its production. Not only would we be unable to shield ourselves from the potentially harmful radiation that is prevalent in space if we did not have it, but we would also be unable to sustain our atmosphere if we did not have it. Additionally, it is important to take into consideration the fact that the core of our globe is undergoing movement. Research that was conducted not too long ago, on the other hand, has shown that it is slowing down in order to spin in a manner that is more in line with the rest of the world. On the other hand, slowing down is not an action that is dramatic enough to be considered dramatic. What happens when both layers of the core come to a complete halt in their movement is something that we are going to investigate together as a group. You would not need to be concerned about the immediate prospect of the end of the world if only the heated and solid inner core that is placed inside the outer core would cease moving. This would eliminate the need for you to be nervous about the likelihood of the end of the world. This would be the most significant aspect that would be changed, and it would be the slowing down of the inner core that would have the most substantial impact on the spinning speed of the Earth. It is possible that as a consequence of this, we will be able to slow down our rotation, which would lead to our days becoming greater in length. Furthermore, it is probable that this will, over the course of time, weaken our magnetic field. This is something that I am concerned about. This is a piece of information that is really discouraging. However, this is not even close to being as catastrophic as what would occur if the goopy outer core also stopped spinning. This would be a much more catastrophic event. In the event that the layer in question were to undergo rotation, it would be imperative for you to separate yourself from our magnetic field. Because of this, in the future, the appearance of Earth would be relatively comparable to that of Mars. This would be a consequence of this. It is probable that when Mars was 4.2 billion years ago, it had a temperature that was high enough to sustain the existence of oceans. The conditions that existed at the time would have been ideal for the growth of life if this had been the case. As a result of the core of the red planet becoming stationary, its magnetic field, which was initially quite powerful, has, on the other hand, started to become less powerful. Strong solar winds were crashing into Mars at rates of several hundred kilometers per second, which was causing the planet's atmosphere to corrode. This was happening at the same time that Mars' magnetic field was disintegrating. A simultaneous occurrence of this was taking place. It was during that time period that the Earth went through a shift that resulted in the formation of the dry, lifeless desert that we are familiar with today. Nevertheless, let us return to the planet Earth for a moment. Things would grow rather unstable up until the point where it completely transformed into a planet with an environment that was characterized by it being dry. Tectonic plates would immediately and without hesitation collide with each other once the core had stopped spinning, in the event that the core were to unexpectedly cease rotating. This would occur immediately after the core had stopped rotating. If this were to occur, it would be quite similar to the situation that occurs when the driver of your bus suddenly applies the brakes, which results in you colliding with the other passengers on the bus. The sudden collision of tectonic plates would cause large earthquakes to occur at the plate borders all across the Earth. These earthquakes would be caused by the unexpected collision. These tremors would be caused by the collision that would take place. These earthquakes would cause the destruction of residential buildings, streets, and bridges, all of which would be completely destroyed. In the event that an individual was connected to the water system, phone lines, or power, their connections would be severed. Over the course of time, there would be a loss of millions of lives, and millions more people would be forced to evacuate as a result of the situation. To put that into perspective, despite the fact that these earthquakes would be quite destructive, the damage would not begin to become apparent until that point in time. In the event that our magnetic field were to vanish, you would be subjected to potentially dangerous cosmic radiation that would continue to pummel the surface of our planet. In the event that our magnetic field were to be removed, this radiation would be the direct consequence. It is likely that these particles, which have a high energy level from the Sun, might interact with the high concentrations of nitrogen and oxygen that are present in our atmosphere. This interaction could be advantageous or detrimental to our environment. As a consequence of this, there would be an increase in the amount of UV radiation that may potentially reach the surface, which would ultimately lead to the disintegration of the ozone layer that serves as a protective barrier for planet Earth. If these solar beams were combined with UV radiation, the result would be an effect that would be extremely detrimental to all types of life that are currently present on Earth. Your body's DNA would be harmed, which would ultimately result in mutations and cancer on account of the damage that would be caused. In the event that the core were to collapse, it would make it more difficult to move about the Earth. It is because of the greater difficulty that this would be the case. On your next camping trip, I really hope that you carry a decent trail map with you, because compasses would be completely useless in a situation like that. I highly recommend that you bring a trail map with you. Furthermore, it is conceivable for migratory animals of any kind to become disoriented and lose their way in the process of traveling. Sea turtles will never be able to locate the beaches where they deposit their eggs, since there is no possibility that they could ever find their way back. In addition, birds that were heading south would become disoriented and finally perish as a consequence of the extremely low temperatures. If, for whatever reason, the core had abruptly ceased rotating, the earthquakes that would have been released into the planet would have already caused major damage to the electrical networks that are distributed all over the world. The absence of a magnetic field, on the other hand, would continue to cause an even greater degree of disruption to the event that is taking place. In addition to posing a risk to our electrical networks, the solar radiation that is constantly bombarding the surface possesses the potential to inflict damage to a wide range of electronic gadgets. Surface damage would also be caused by this radiation if it were to reach the surface. Under those circumstances, the likelihood of you experiencing a loss of electricity would be greatly increased. A remedy that is effective over the long run is a possibility. However, in terms of the practical ramifications, there is no cause for you to be concerned about a tragedy of this kind. There is no reason to be frightened about it. The results of this investigation, which demonstrated that the core has halted and that we are all doomed, were a little bit exaggerated from what they actually discovered. The center has come to a halt. During the course of the conversation, The researchers did not even make an effort to discuss the outer core of the planet. They were referring to the inner core, which rotates in a manner that is distinct from the rotation of the globe as a whole. This was an alternate explanation. While it is in the process of revolutionizing, it does not stop or go back over the stages it has already taken. The only difference is that it moves at a slower and quicker pace, exactly like it has done for the great majority of the billions of years that our planet has been around. This is the only difference. The following is some wonderful news that I am pleased to share with you all. We have successfully acquired our gigantic rock that is located in the blue space.